De Janeiro din.
There once was a king named John who had a daughter, Princess Elizabeth. King John was a very prideful man who only believed in what was best for his status. Although Elizabeth was a very kind-souled person and only wished happiness for her father. One day, King John decided to go for a walk with Elizabeth through the village to brag about his riches and fame. As they walked through the village, King John said, "Elizabeth, you ought to not say a word to anyone. Do you understand?" Elizabeth was busy gazing at the daisy-covered fields behind them. King John exclaimed, "Do you understand?" Elizabeth broke her gaze and quickly replied, "Sorry, Father, I was admiring these lovely flowers. You know, there aren't many flowers on the castle grounds. Maybe I should plant some daisies." As she picked up a flower, John screamed, "I said no!" and grasped the flowers out of her hand and threw it to the floor. "Sorry, Father, I shall not say any more," Elizabeth said in a sad tone. "No, you shall not!" King John said, cutting Elizabeth off. They both continued to walk. King John continued shouting about his riches. Elizabeth never understood why he needed to do so. She didn't listen to what he had said. As they walked through the village, she was browsing at all the lovely markets, daydreaming about how the flowers would look in the castle grounds. She heard King John blurt out, "My daughter has the power to turn bricks into diamonds." She looked at her father in shock. He said in a stubborn undertone, "Can't you, dear?" King John gave her a snide look, and she replied shyly, "Yes, Father." She was ashamed of her father's deceitful ways, and they continued to walk through the village, only this time Elizabeth paying close attention to what her father was saying. She realised most of them were lies about herself. They left the village and returned to the castle. The next day, a man arrived in the castle grounds.
As Prince Noah left through the castle gates, Elizabeth came to the dining room
King
to
John
see her
rushed to the
father
door.
sitting counting his
"Hello,
gold
young
coins.
Prince Noah. Why
May
the
I
pleasure
ask
to
where
see
you
you
got
again?"
that, Father?
King John
Princess
asked,
Elizabeth
confused.
asked.
"I have
What
come to
Prince
take
Noah?"
Princess
he said with a
Elizabeth to turn my
chuckle.
bricks to
"From who?"
diamonds," he
Prince
exclaimed.
Noah of
"Come
Rome.
in, so
He
we can
gave me
discuss,"
his finest
replied
horse
King
and
John.
12 gold coins.
"I shall
in
give you
return
my
for
best
you,"
horse
he
and
said
10 gold
happily,
coins.
smiling
Dear boy,
from ear to ear.
my girl
In
makes
return
diamonds,
for
not
what?
silver.
Elizabeth asked,
Finest,
looking
I'm
in
hoping.
shock that
What about 12? It's a done deal that her father would sell her for a few measly coins and a horse. "Yes, I know you heard me right. You shall leave tomorrow." "Why, Father? Why was I only worth a few gold coins and a horse to you?" She fled the room with tears pouring from her eyes.
The next day, even though she went resentfully, Princess Elizabeth was taken to Prince Noah's castle. As she left, her father whispered to her, "Remember, children should be seen and not heard."
Soon later, Princess Elizabeth arrived at Prince Noah's castle. As soon as she arrived, she was escorted to the castle gates. Prince Noah grabbed her arm and started dragging her down a long set of stairs, where she arrived at the end of the staircase. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A person appeared and entered the room. He ordered her, "My name is De Janeiro. You shall turn these bricks into diamonds by dawn, or you shall never see your father again." Elizabeth stopped her sobbing. As he left, he locked the door. To find a very handsome boy gazing back down at her. She could hear him walking up the steps. She began to cry. "Oh, Father, I'm never going to come home again." And she started Princess Elizabeth even harder. "Don't cry, it'll ruin your lovely dress." "Thank you. What are you doing down here?" she asked in a confused voice. "Oh, I'm here to help you," he said in a calm tone. "Help me?" "Yes, I shall teach you how to turn these little bricks into blazing diamonds," he said proudly. How would you do that?" "Simple." Elizabeth stopped sobbing and looked him in the eye and cried, "Thank you." He replied, "Don't even think about it. I hate how the prince is always scheming for money." That night they practiced over and over again until Princess Elizabeth looked up and said to him, "It's useless. I can't do it, and no one can." Without saying a word, the boy looked her in the eye and then back at the bricks. The bricks, every single one of them, had turned into diamonds. "Wow," she said in amazement. "How did you do that?" "From trying hard and focusing. The only reason you can't do it is because you aren't focusing." "I'm trying. I'm just so worried about my village and my father." Elizabeth started to cry. "I'm never going back there, am I? Not if you don't focus." "I know, but I just don't understand why my father thinks I'm worthless. He thinks I'm worth a few coins and a horse. Princess Elizabeth began to cry loudly. You need to understand, sometimes things are better off not knowing. And sitting crying won't do anything to help you. Focus and prove your father wrong. She sat silent for a moment, and then he made a daisy appear. He handed it to Elizabeth, and she said, "You're right, but how would you do that?" She laughed, and he said, "If only one believes in their heart of hearts, then anything is possible," holding back a smile. Hours of trying had gone by, and then suddenly Elizabeth had turned a brick into a stick. Elizabeth screamed delight. "I did it! I did it!" "Might want to look again," he said, holding in a laugh. "Oh, for heaven's sake! Wait, I still did it! Yay!" she said in delight. De Janeiro Dill turned all of the other bricks into diamonds and said, "Good try," laughing. Next morning at dawn, Prince Noah came to check on the diamonds, and in shock he said, "Wait, you actually did it!" "I know, I can see," she said with a smile from ear to ear. "Why are you so happy? You should be miserable," he said. "I get to go home to my father," as she stood up walking to the door. "Wait, you think you were leaving?" "Well, yeah, I kind of guessed that because I turned the bricks into diamonds," with a smirk. The smirk emerged across his face. "Oh no, not yet." As he brought her to the next room with double the bricks. "Wait, you promised that I could go home today," she said, crying. "Oh no, I didn't." He began to laugh. "But I do promise that if by tomorrow at noon, if you shall have finished turning all these diamonds from bricks, you can go home back to your castle." He slammed the door shut and she sat down. She waited, hoping for De Janeiro Dill to show again. She waited and waited for hours on end until she had given up on the thought of ever seeing her father again. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It opened to see De Janeiro Dill standing there. "I thought you would never come back," she said in relief, as he came and stood by the bricks. "Where did you think I would go, round Avoy?" Elizabeth laughed as she sat by the bricks, focusing all her thoughts and turning the bricks into diamonds. An hour or so later, all the diamonds had been turned into bricks. "I actually did it!" "Yes, good job." Elizabeth had transformed all the bricks into diamonds in under 30 minutes. "Wow, I'm impressed. You learned quickly," De Janeiro Dill said. "Thank you, De Janeiro, so much for all your help. Like I have said, don't thank me. I simply do this for the sake of proving the prince wrong. I despise his ways." "Well, thank you anyway." Princess Elizabeth continued to turn the bricks into diamonds. At 11 a.m., De Janeiro announced that it was time for him to go. Princess Elizabeth started to say her goodbyes. When she turned round, he was gone. She was amazed. She waited until noon came. Prince Noah returned. This time, he was just as shocked as before. His jaw dropped in amazement at what she had done. Elizabeth begged, whilst cutting him off. "Can I see my father now, please?" he said spitefully. "If you must." She ran past him, pushed past the alarmed guards, and scrambled into the coach. This is where they carried her to her castle. Soon she arrived at the gates where her father had waited for her to return and wrapped his arms around her. The next morning, at dawn, Prince Noah came to check on the diamonds and said in shock, "Wait, you actually did it?" "I know, I can see," she said with a smile from ear to ear. "Why are you so happy? You should be miserable," he said. "I get to go home to my father," as she stood up walking to the door. "Wait, you think you're leaving?" "Well, yeah, I kind of guessed that because I turned the bricks into diamonds." A smirk emerged across his face. "Oh no, not yet," as he brought her to the next room with double the bricks. "Wait, you promised that I could go home today," she said, crying. "Oh no, I didn't." He began to laugh. "But I do promise that if by tomorrow at noon, if you shall have finished turning all these bricks into diamonds, you can go back to your castle." She slammed the door shut as she began to sat back down. She waited, hoping for De Janeiro Dill to show again. She waited and waited for hours on end until she had given up on the thought that she would ever see her father again. Suddenly, there was the same knock on the door. It opened to see De Janeiro Dill standing there. "I thought you would never come back," she said in relief, as he came and stood by the bricks. "Where did you think I would go around Avoy?" Elizabeth laughed as she sat by the bricks, focusing all her thoughts on turning the bricks into diamonds. An hour or so later, it turned into a diamond. "I actually did it!" "Yes, good job." Elizabeth had transformed most of the bricks into diamonds in under 30 minutes. "Wow, I'm impressed. You learned quickly," De Janeiro said. "Thank you, De Janeiro, so much for your help, but like I have said, don't thank me. I'm simply doing this for the sake of proving the prince wrong. I despise his ways." "Well, thank you anyway." Elizabeth continued to turn the bricks into diamonds. At 11 a.m., De Janeiro announced that it was time for him to go. Princess Elizabeth started to say her goodbyes, but she turned around. He was gone. She was amazed. She waited until noon came. Prince Noah returned. This time he was just as shocked as before. His jaw dropped in amazement at what she had done. Elizabeth begged, whilst cutting him off. "Can I see my father now, please?" He spitefully said, "If you must." "I'm sorry, you were right. You are worth more than a handful of stupid coins and a horse," he muttered through tears. "You may feel awful about it, Dad, but now I can actually turn bricks into diamonds." "No, you can't. Do not lie." "I don't want to lie anymore. I lost my precious daughter." "That's great to hear, Dad, but I can watch." She turned around and made the castle into diamonds. "Wow!" "Thank you, Father."